Welcome to Consulting Mastery, where we help B2B consultants master the business of consulting. I'm Carrie.
And I'm Ahmed. Join us as we explore the art of delivering outstanding client value, earning a higher income, and thriving in today's marketplace. Hey folks, welcome back to Consulting Mastery. Before we get you to this week's episode, I wanted to let you know that we have a live workshop coming up on power positioning for consultants. If you want to learn the exact same framework that we teach our clients inside 90-Day Pipeline of how to position themselves as the one and only indisputable choice in their markets, attract perfect clients, and command premium fees, you can do so on our live workshop at powerpositioningworkshop.com. It's just $49 to join us, and you can grab your seat at powerpositioningworkshop.com. With that, here's this week's episode.
Ahmed.
Carrie.
You may be known sometimes as a guy who likes to go out there and create a bit of controversy out in the realm of social media.
I feel like you're being polite, but okay, yeah. All right.
Being polite for the moment. We're going to dig in for a moment. But I think it's worth talking about because we have clients come in, they're working on their own strategies to go out and communicate their point of view into the world. And there's this underlying sentiment sometimes around, well, that's what Ahmed does, right? That's what he can do. That's him. That's his personality. That's his style. That's not me. I do another thing. I present facts. Whatever the case may be. And I think it's important to talk about why you do that and talk about the fact that besides, well, you certainly enjoy stirring things up. It's calculated, right? There's a reason that you are out there saying things that can be inflammatory, that get people's attention, that can start a bit of an argument. And there's a lesson there that anyone can take on in their own way. And we can talk about what that looks like. But I want to hear from you, right from the horse's mouth. Tell me the thought process behind going out there and stirring things up.
Yeah, I think you're probably overstating how much I stir things up, and I think there's a line there around, are you opinionated and do you have strong opinions versus are you just trying to stir the pot for no reason? So I'd like to believe I don't do the latter.
I was trying to stir the pot. I was like,
well
doing my part, trying to get a little meta here. Yeah.
You got me all defensive now, right?
Yeah.
So I don't, at least strategically, and then when this happens, incidentally perhaps, but strategically, I'm not going out and trying to wreak havoc in the market and stir the pot and just to get people all hot and bothered for the sake of gaming attention, because that's a big thing on social media, and it's not my game by any means. I am, however, highly opinionated on a few things. I'm highly opinionated on the issues and the concerns and the problems that I have a degree of expertise in, a strong degree of expertise in. And I'm not opinionated about much else at all that I have less expertise in. And, to your point, let's think about what do clients want in a consultant and an expert? Well, what they want in a consultant is they want an expert. Okay. Because I want to know that I've got somebody here that I'm working with that has some expertise in solving the problem that I'm facing, and it's not their first rodeo. Well, how do they know you're an expert? Okay. And boy, I'm sick of seeing on LinkedIn profiles, published author, best-selling, podcast host, credentials, designations. Everybody has those. And the market doesn't care anymore. Maybe they did at one point. Every market's very mature now, and people don't care about your credentials. That's not what's going to convey your authority and your expertise. What is going to convey your authority and your expertise is the fact that you have strong, polarizing opinions and points of view. That's the real mark of an expert.
Yeah, and I would add it's the mark of an expert, but it's also the way that a prospective client can figure out if you are the expert for them. Because there's always more than one way to solve a problem, right? And some of them are going to resonate with specific people more than others, and that's perfectly fine. right? I don't think anyone's here to say that their way is the only, some people do say that, but the reality is there are many ways to get to your end destination. And so the other thing, and there are a lot of terrible things about social media these days, right? But one of the really great things is you can get to know somebody to some degree well before you actually interact with them at all. And so what you're really doing is giving these prospects an opportunity to see who you are, how you think, how you communicate, what your perspective is. And you're also giving them their opportunity to say, oh, you know what? That Ahmed guy, not for me. And this is a good thing, right? This is a very good thing, because in the end, you're always, as a consultant, looking for those clients with whom you have a certain kind of connection, right? Clients who are going to jump on the train that you are on, clients that are going to come, into the engagement with some level of belief and confidence. And so you also want folks for whom that won't be the case, who either don't need what you have or don't agree with your perspective or just don't like your face or your voice, right? To head in another direction. And so just recognizing that what you're putting out there is doing a ton of the heavy lifting that you used to have to do, in the old days before people could see you in this way. That's being done through the opinions and through the statements that you're putting out in the world. That's a very powerful tool that I'm not sure we're always strategic enough about.
Well, let's use us as kind of a meta example, right? So our target market is, no surprise here, B2B consultants and professional service providers, whether that's, I'd say from boutique down to solos would be the scope there. We can't work with all of them. It's a big market. There's a lot of folks in that space. And, if my strategy was, well, I just want to go work with as many folks as possible and assume that they're all the same, it's a bad strategy, right? If I assume they're all the same, they all think the same, they have the same opinions, they have the same points of view, they have the same perspectives, then, well, frankly, that doesn't really enable much of a strategy, because what do I do now? My only option is to shout louder, right? So these are the people that, are showing up in your LinkedIn DMs with a, hey, can we talk? And hey, can we help you? Because they haven't found a meaningful entry point into the market. So their solution is just shout louder, right? And in higher volumes, shout more often and shout louder. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and assume that that's not the strategy that you, the listener, want to employ. Well, then the question becomes, okay, in my market, in this demographic profile of who I want to serve, what are the psychographic profiles within that? How do folks think about the problems that they're facing and the solutions available to them and the goals that they want to pursue? How do they think differently about those things? And can I start to organize my demographic market into smaller psychographic segments? Okay. So at the top end of this podcast episode, you heard a little advertising spot from myself promoting a workshop called Power Positioning for Consultants. And you can learn more about that at powerpositioningworkshop.com. On this workshop, what I do is I communicate and share a 5-part positioning framework for B2B consultants. Okay. And the vast majority of our clients who actually end up enrolling with us in 90-Day Pipeline come from this workshop. Why? Because we are communicating a point of view, okay, an opinion, a perspective that positioning ultimately enables pipeline. That you can't really build pipeline until you have really solid positioning for your business. Without positioning, you're one of those people just trying to scream louder and more often. But you need to have really strong positioning to enable pipeline generation. And therefore, we need to start with the positioning strategy. And so we have a framework for this. We attract people to that conversation who already kind of believe that to be true. Like, they don't want to be somebody that's just spamming and trying to shout louder from the rooftops. They want to be more intelligent and strategic in their approach. So we attract them. We share this framework and this perspective with them, and the ones who are a good fit enroll. And guess who doesn't even come to the table? The folks who want to shout louder from the rooftops, right? They want to, and whatever that means, like they want to game LinkedIn, they want to hack the algorithm, they want to circumvent LinkedIn's outreach limitations, they want to just, do more cold email and outreach and all those things. By the way, that's a big market. That's a bigger market than the one that we serve. That's a bigger chunk of the market, most likely. It's one that we don't want to touch. So we put a message out, an opinion, a point of view that attracts the right people that we want to work with, and frankly repels everybody else.
Now, we work with a lot of folks and we have this conversation on an ongoing basis. I'm curious to hear your thoughts about why people don't like to do this.
Well, I mean, there's probably an evolutionary answer there, right? It's being left out of the tribe.
Yeah, exactly.
It's being called out. It's being disagreed with. It's being, it's why are people so agreeable? And why do, at the time of this recording, I hope they're not listening, but my 13-year-old daughter is in a fight with her friends, right? And why are they in a fight? Because they don't know how to handle conflict in a positive way. They're still learning how to engage with each other, right? And so there's this very unnecessary fight because they don't know how to disagree with each other positively. And so I think a lot of folks, and it's not their fault, it's a question of upbringing and experience and conditioning, just don't feel comfortable with the idea of putting an opinion out there that can be challenged, that people can disagree with, that people can potentially be offended by. And I wouldn't even say that I'm necessarily comfortable with that myself at this stage. And I certainly always wasn't as comfortable as I am today, but I acknowledge and I respect that can be an uncomfortable situation for people.
Well, and what's interesting that rolls out of that as well is that once you get over that hump and once you decide it's okay to put something out there and you might be challenged, also recognize just how valuable people being able to see how you handle that challenge can be. And so what I'm clearly not talking about is the ongoing, cesspool of social media where people are just name calling and fighting each other and battling and doing all those things that are quite frankly way worse than your 13-year-old daughter, I'm sure. But to be someone that rises above that and actually comes back with a real discussion, right? Someone who can respect that someone else has a different opinion and is willing to engage, someone who, stands your ground or maybe changes or shifts the way that you need to. But, you really have an opportunity to separate yourself by showing yourself to be somebody who is firm in their convictions and also is, open to having that debate, right? Who can actually stand behind the things that you're saying, not just yell them over and over again. But that is also a big deal when you think about someone who is, getting ready to potentially sign a very large check for a very large piece of business. It also just shows how you're going to comport yourself, how you're going to react, what's going to happen if I challenge them, if I disagree, right? And so, again, just recognizing that you are introducing people, you're opening the window, you're showing them who you are. And, not much bad can come from that, quite frankly.
Yeah, and I think there's probably a discussion to be had here about the Dunning-Kruger effect, right? Because it's not enough to have strong opinions. I think you're going to find two types of people that have strong opinions: those who have very little experience at all, and those who have a ton of experience. But there's a key difference between the two. If you're and you're probably not this type of person, but you've seen this type of person, very strong opinions, very opinionated, and very not really receptive to any kind of intellectual discourse around that. That's not an expert. That's an imposter. That's someone that grabbed onto an opinion that likely wasn't theirs and grabbed hold of it, took it as their own, and now they're trying to propagate it towards some end or some gain. The mark of a real expert is they're opinionated, but they're also nuanced. They can have an intelligent discussion on when this idea applies, when it doesn't apply, what are the considerations, what are the nuances, what are the questions, what are the contexts in which this can be challenged. That's an expert, right? And clients are looking for that, typically in the sales conversation, via the objections that they present and the questions that they ask. They want to know, are you just a highly opinionated, kind of one-trick pony that, has one idea, one way of doing things, and the moment that, your idea goes off the rails, they're going to be left holding the bag? Or are you a genuine expert that understands that there are different approaches, different strategies, different ways of doing things? And yes, you have your way. you have your opinion, you have your point of view, but you also have enough experience to be able to navigate like the real challenges of implementing a project or getting a result in the real world.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to give some practical tips here, because the other thing that I find with our clients that is challenging for them is pulling this out of themselves, which sounds strange, right? And they will create content or, position themselves in some way, and it'll fall kind of flat, and there won't be much to it, and it doesn't really sound like they're really kind of connected to it. And so we'll have the conversation with them. One of our coaches will talk with them, and immediately when they start to speak, just off the cuff in conversation, all those thoughts and ideas come out, right? Somehow being faced with, make a list of your opinions or your positions, things you want to say, stops people in their tracks. And so what I will say to you, if you're out there thinking, oh, do I even really have any convictions? Or how do I present those in a way that makes a lot of sense? I would say just like listen to yourself, right? Record yourself, pull the statements out of your day-to-day communications. And what you'll find is there's a through line, there's a thread, there is something that you truly stand for, you truly believe in. You may not notice it because it may seem too simple. It may seem too elementary. It may not seem like something that is worth putting out into the world. But remember that you're the expert. Other people don't know what you know. And you do have these opinions about which you're convicted. And it's really just about, pulling them out and, creating them into a format that is going to catch attention out in the world.
Let me add a practical exercise here. Practical exercise. I can get practical too, believe it or not. Here's one to chew on. Think of a time when a client wanted to do something stupid, right? And stupid meaning like it wasn't a good idea. You know better. You're the expert, right? But the client was like, "Oh, we want to do this, and we have this idea." You know better because you're the expert, right? Recall what you communicated to talk them off the ledge. How did you get them to see that their idea maybe wasn't the best idea and that there's a better way of doing things? Think about these situations where you're steering clients in the right direction, kind of meeting them where they're at, but engaging with them and steering them in the right direction towards a better course of action. I promise you, and if you're consulting clients, you're probably doing this on the regular. This is happening very often. And I promise you, in those interactions are opinions, are points of view, are light bulb moments that can be packaged and communicated out to the broader market, who are likely thinking about doing the same kind of stupid things your clients want to do.
Yeah, so I would say, long story short, you have opinions. They are valuable. They're the things that are going to signal to people if in fact you are the person that they want to work with, and nothing should stop you from sending those out into the world.